Beloved, welcome back to the homestead. Well, Mrs. W was on the local Facebook page and the Forest Service posted, if anyone wants 750 Douglas fir trees, they need to come get them now because we're turning the cooler off, and she went and picked them up. So that means I've got 750 trees to plant. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to be trying a new method. The trenching shovel's not working out very well for me, so I got a power auger, and we'll see if that doesn't give us a little bit better results. Also, my good friend TJ from Refuge Medical just sent me, Mr. Dry and I, a couple of the brand new IFAKs with a really cool form factor. If we have time, I want to do a little mini review on this because this is a great EDC kit, and I want to go over that. So hopefully we have time for that. So let's get our tools ready and get to augering. Over the past couple years, I've been reestablishing the native species, kind of rebuilding the forest down here with conifers and deciduous. What was once pasture, I'm trying to kind of reinstate, especially to reinforce the bank on the riverbank, which we're having some erosion problems. So I found this auger. It looked a little bit smaller online, but it's got root cutters in it. And I tried it yesterday at a little hole, and it seemed to work pretty good. So we're gonna need a pretty hefty drill. I'm hoping that my cordless drill will be strong enough for this. If not, I've got one of those great big Milwaukee corded versions, but I'd prefer to go cordless. So let's get our battery set up. Let's do a little test hole here, see how it goes. As I said yesterday, this might be a fool's errand, but it might make things a little bit nicer for me. I'm guessing we're gonna be going through batteries like crazy here. So I brought my charger down. All right, let's do a little test hole down here. See how she goes. These trees were put in last summer, and it looks like they're doing pretty good. I've been trying to plant along the riverbank here and replace any that died last winter, but I think these are all doing good. Here's a little western red cedar, and boy, this Doug fir here, it's really going. Let's look at this guy. This little fir here, when I put it in, was no more than maybe 8 inches or so, and look at how full and robust it is. Good color. It's probably nearly tripled in size. So they do like it down here. This is their native land. It's hard to get a foothold when everything's so dry. Once we get a few up and going, then they'll kind of start helping each other out. Let's try our first test hole here. We could use a nice Doug fir here by this ponderosa. And the root system will help to really grab a hold and secure that bank. I have to say, that works pretty good. It does fill back in. Who knows, I might be back to my old ways, but it does make a nice hole. You know, every tool, oh, these are nice trees. They need to be planted though. Again, we don't want a J-root. When you put the trees in, make sure the hole's got to be deep. Yeah, that actually, I think that's going to work really good. That's a whole lot less work than before. Even using it for the first time, it was reasonably simple. You know, all these tools, there's a learning curve to all this stuff. I remember when I was in high school, there used to be this mean old boomer on TV. I think his name was Andy Rooney. He was like on the news or on 60 Minutes or something, and he was always complaining. You know, he's the get off my lawn type of guy, complaining about something. And I remember he did an episode complaining about channel locks and how useless they were. Now, this is a guy that probably lives in an apartment in New York, and he got a hold of a pair of channel locks and he couldn't make them work, and so that meant that they were bad. And that burnt me because channel locks are one of the most useful tools once you learn to master them, and it doesn't take very long. And I never forgot that. And I never trusted the media after that. Like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He was a hateful old guy, though. It's probably good he's dead. I say we just work our way along the riverbank here. The trees planted behind the firewood piles, they do really good because they get sheltered from that southern sun. Boy, I think I'm onto something, gentlemen. Boy, that's really great. I wetted these down, put some water in there before I put them in. That seems to help. Well, nice having that great big hole. Oh, here's a survival trick I learned from my grandfather. Most of the conifers in the Pacific Northwest, all up and down the West Coast, if they get a scar on them, you can find this resin. My granddad always called it sap. This stuff's pretty dry right here. But this is pure gold if you get lost or stranded. It doesn't matter the weather condition. You can match light this. You could dunk this. Here, I'll show you. We can dunk it underwater and this will match light. Losing my radio. It can be rainy and you can light this stuff. I gotta get this out of the wind to show you. But this will match light. You scrape out a little hole and add this and you can cook right on top of that. And it can be pouring down rain and this stuff will burn. It's great when you find it to stave a little bit and throw it in your pack. The trick is you leave the dirt in the hole. Go down, go deep, but don't fling the dirt out. When you fling the dirt out, then you don't have enough to go back in. But then you can just take a scoop or two out. Because these roots are long. These are really healthy dug firs. So they require a pretty deep hole. And then you still got all your dirt there. It's nice and fluffy. Yeah, that's the way to do it. This is by far, I've planted thousands of these, and this is by far the most enjoyable and easiest way to go about doing it. Now I mentioned earlier that this is for treating gunshot wounds. So you guys are going to say, well, I'm not going to be treating gunshot wounds, so how does this apply to me? Mr. Dry and I were talking about this. This is an IFAK that every one of you should have. If you work construction, especially if you work with chainsaws, this is not just for gunshot wounds. This is for any traumatic injury that's going to bleed you out. So it's a real all-in-one kit. When I say gunshot, kind of what that means is it's got a chest seal in here, which we'll get into, in addition to everything else. But starting off, this is the belt kit. I got a red one, multicam. Mr. Dry, he's got one that's in tan, so lots of different colors. Everything from Refuge is going to be the best of the best. Of course, all USA-made components whenever possible, including the bag. This Cordura bag is all USA made. And the form factor is a little bit different. Most of the IFAKs that I have are going to be more of a rectangle shape. This one's really handy because the way it's designed on the back, it's got Molly or Powell's compatible. This can be mounted horizontally on your belt, or you can mount it vertically. We've been working with it both ways, so you could put it on a chest rig, pretty much work with it anywhere. But the shape of it, just the kind of a grab and go, I like it. I've just been throwing it in my SOE tool bag just to have it on hand. Trauma shears on the outside, that's really nice. Trauma shears, you know, especially when you have someone that's got an injury in wintertime, you can bleed out inside 3 minutes. And it might take you that long just to get your trousers off. So having trauma shears on the outside of the kit is really a good design, the way they just go in there. So no matter where you mount this, you can reach around and you can have those trauma shears out immediately. And not just any trauma shears, these are not created equal. You can go on Amazon and buy the cheap garbage ones, or you can get these good ones. I thought at first that these were North American Rescue, but it looks like they got their own branding on here. So I don't see a brand name on here, but the fact that it's got the key on there for an oxygen tank, so those of you who are EMTs or first responders, you know, that will open up that O2 tank. And those are hard to open up if you don't have a tool, pretty much impossible if you don't have a key. But they just have a feel of a North American Rescue, like these are tier 1, top of the line right there. And those just tuck in the back on the outside. The case is pretty innovative. I like red. I have all my med kits are primarily red, and that tells me and my family that when you see a red kit or a red box, that's med stuff. You don't have to think about it. And when you're stressed out and you got a loved one that's injured or bleeding, man, the last thing you want is confusion. So keep it simple. I like the red. So right off the bat, you pull this up, this tab comes up here, it actually lifts the tourniquet. That's a really nice feature. That's a sewn in tab there. Of course, cat tourniquet. Now, Mr. Jiraiya was telling me, these things usually sell, I think they've been selling for around $40. Right now in Ukraine, I guess these things are going for almost $100. So this is your front line. This is what you're gonna do if you touch your leg with a chainsaw, you know, major wound, you got to stop that bleeding. Tourniquet is #1, and it's right there. It pops right out and easy to use. In with that, this is the chest seal I was talking about. Now, a chest seal is to deal with a sucking wound, or can be a gunshot wound right through the chest. So what happens is that the bullet can go in and stop, or it can go all the way through and create 2 holes. And as the patient tries to breathe and take air, it will suck air through this hole, and that's why it's called a sucking chest wound. It actually makes a kind of a slurping sound, and it's really deadly. It will builds pressure up, and you got to deal with it immediately. So that's what these are for. So if you get a sucking chest wound, there's 2 of them in here. You pull this out and you stick it on, and what that does is it basically seals all 3 sides and leaves an opening at the bottom. So it's basically a check valve. So when the suction starts in the wound, the plastic will suck down and seal it and force the air to come through, you know, the trachea through the normal way. And then when pressure, or if pressure builds up inside the chest cavity, it has the ability to release it through the vent in the bottom. So hopefully something you never have to use, but it's there if you need it. Now, you can do the same thing with just a piece of plastic. If you ever get into that situation where you hear that sucking chest wound, slap a piece of plastic on it and tape 3 sides. Leave the bottom side open for that air to get out. But when they suck in, it'll suck up, and it will stop the chest cavity from filling up with air and squeezing the lungs. So there's 2 compartments. So the top compartment's got those 2. Now on the bottom compartment, these things never want to go back in the way you had them when you have the camera on for some reason. There we go. The bottom compartment is going to have your pressure dressing. Now, gloves. Mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, that's a thing, that's an old thing. You don't do that anymore. The only people that I will ever do mouth-to-mouth resuscitation with is going to be my immediate family, because people are dirty. And my caring for myself and being there for my children and my wife is primary concern over some stranger. So that's just the hard facts of it. So glove up. You don't know how dirty people are. So the gloves are on the top right there. Now you're going to have 2 things in here. This is something I've not seen before, but I got to talking this morning to the war band, and we have Mr. Dr. Prepper is a medical doctor, and we were talking about the difference between these NAR responder compression gauzes and the big puffy Israeli bandages. And he made the point that I thought was quite good, is that those big puffy Israeli bandages that so many of us have, it's hard to get real focused pressure on a wound. And that's what you want to do. You got to lay that pressure on there. You got to stop that bleeding. And when you got that big, soft, squishy blood sponge on there, even with the wrapping on it, it's really difficult to stop that bleeding sometimes. So this to me seems like it's a way to have a little bit more focused pressure. This is a big rubber stretchy that you go round and round and round and tuck back in itself, and that will put a ton of pressure on that whatever gauze you put in. Pro tip, if you got a wound, like a big nasty wound that's just, you don't know what to do with, you know, let's say it's like the size of a baseball, take your knife and slice across the top of this dressing, whatever dressing you may have, any gauze, and you can kind of pull and pick out little goblets of it and stuff that into the wound. Because there's a lot of material in here. It says here there's 4 yards, so 12, you know, that's close to 30 feet. That's a lot. It's really compacted down, but you can do that. You can take this, rather than just having it string out all over and, you know, and flying away, you can cut that, pull out what you need, tear it, just stuff, get that on there, and then pull this S-mark bandage out and wrap around there, and it'll put a lot of really focused pressure on there. And once you get that tourniquet on, and this is how you deal with it. So a really awesome kit. And I like the bag. The kit is nothing, you know, the ingredients here are nothing revolutionary. This is just what works. This is what we've learned from perpetual war for the last 40 years. You know, we've learned a thing or two about dealing with traumas. So I guess that's one good thing to come out of it. But what is innovative about this one and why I'm sharing it with you is I like the form factor. I like this bag. Someone was thinking when they came up with this, and this one's going to be within reach. I know Mr. Jirai and I both were kind of the same mind that this is an excellent kit. Refuge Medical is going to have the very, very best stuff, and they're the very best people, and I will personally vouch for them. They're the ones that I went down and helped the storm relief with. You know, they do medical supplies, but they also do a lot of other things. They do a lot of relief efforts to tornadoes and hurricanes, and they are some of the best people I've ever met. So supporting them, it's worth it just to buy from them, just to support what they do and who they stand for. There's a lot of good people that are making a living and working for that company and feeding their families that are selling and providing these excellent kits. So you're doing a good thing when you're buying these kits. They're the best of the best, and I'll personally vouch for them. So this is the belt kit. I'll put a link in the description. I'll pin it to the top comment. And these retail, I believe, $189. $189, USA made. This is the only one you need. So if you're looking for a personal IFAK or you've been sitting on the fence, you couldn't do better than this. This is a good way to go, and it's going to be very versatile and easy to pack. That's it. I'm not going to bore you with any more tree planting. May God bless you and your families. Please keep us in your prayers, and we'll see you all on the next video.